I never did like surfing. Yeah, the culture was awesome, especially in 1963. There was the music, the babes. Tybee Island's rough and rowdy Atlantic Ocean. But the only thing surfing ever did for me was give me more to hang out with my brother Ronnie. Another hobby we could share. At that time, both of us ran wild in Savannah, Georgia. From my birth in 1949 to our current surf rock obsession, Ronnie and I rode through the times, both good and bad. Coming from a working-class background, we didn't have much money for entertainment, especially in the decades before flat screens and video games. Especially when we were teenagers. Dad worked long days at the mill and was more reserved than Ronnie and I. He loved us, we knew that, but still, he spent most of his spare time fixing cars in the garage, his real passion. Sometimes we'd help, but Daddy was a quiet man, tall and introspective, even brooding. On the other hand, Mama was a little, loud Southern lady. Pretty and a caring mother, but far from someone to do anything outside her comfort zone. Never mind anything fun, she was just too damn paranoid. Mom the type who preferred cooking and cleaning in our little brick house than joining Ronnie and I for the carnival or the horror movies showing down at the drive-in. Well, soon, Ronnie turned 15. And in those days before tourism conquered Savannah, a boy could get a license that age. Much to our joy, Ronnie got his. Dad gave us a big woody wagon for Ronnie's first car. One that'd seen better days, sure. But our dad was one hell of a mechanic. Besides the chipped brown paint and hideous green stripes, that Woody ran pretty damn well. Like convicts busting out of a stifling prison, Ronnie and I took off in that wagon every day, particularly on those late weekend nights. Our summers a seamless collage of carefree perfection, especially in that summer of '63, the summer of surf rock. That's what it was. Sure, Ronnie and I still looked for chicks at the drive-in. We still spent those nights aimlessly cruising River Street. But in 1963, Tybee beckoned us youth. So in late June, we made the journey down there. On a dull Thursday, during summer break, we had nothing better to do. And with my buddy Jack Dukes in tow, we had good company at least. With Ronnie's longboard and my transistor radio, we were set for our own beach blanket bingo. One in which we hopefully met some sweet babes. Ronnie was only a year and a half older, but still looked out for me. He was overprotective at times, but loyal. Unlike other brothers, we never fought. Never got jealous of one another. Never said those sorts of low insults siblings regret later. The kind of comments families can forgive at the time, but never forget to the grave. We didn't do that shit. Ronnie and I were a perfect pair. For whatever reason, his name had a silent H. A family mystery not even Mom could explain. But such a unique spelling was only the beginning of Ronnie's wacky, charismatic personality. Neither of us were very tall. We were skinny, average-height teens. Athletic enough to enjoy sports without being particularly good at them. Surfing included. Ronnie's face was more angular. Pretty even with those big green eyes and straight dark hair. He had an electric smile. That being said, I guess you'd describe me as more rough. Handsome, yeah, but my face was rugged. Green eyes that weren't as big as Ronnie's. Hair that wasn't quite as neat or dark. We both had big noses and loud voices. Not to mention a shared wicked sense of humor. One that we always cultivated all the way up to Ronnie's death. Even scrawnier than us, Jack had been my best friend since elementary school. Much like Ronnie and I, he came from a blue-collar background. His long curly hair and beady eyes gave him a shaggy rock star vibe. Well before the British invasion, Jack loved music. The guy was a great drummer. And needless to say, he was the one who turned us on to alcohol and pot. Him and I would always wreak havoc. Our reckless rebelliousness carrying over into our teenage years. Jack always the class clown without a cause. But through his antics and wild streak, Jack had heart, unlike some of my other friends. And Jack's compassion is what really endeared him to Ronnie and I. At least what made my elder brother put up with his crazy ass. That Thursday, the three of us drove to Tybee. We spent several hours on the pier, loitering in the summer breeze, languishing in the speaker's endless parade of the Beach Boys and Ronettes. Within minutes, we had the attention of three pretty girls, all of them students at Savannah High. Ronnie immediately landed the prettiest one, Jessica. a dark brunette who was the closest to Annette Funicello I'd seen outside the drive-in screen. Not to mention the oldest of her crew at 16. Jack and I were left with the freshman scraps. Not that we were complaining. Molly was a tall blonde. Okay, maybe her face wasn't the best, but I'd hooked up with worse. Susie was a cute, chubby blonde, and Jack was on her like a starstruck fanboy. As the Trashman surfing birds surrounded us, our group enjoyed the Pierce perks. The Thai Brisa Pavilion, home to a fun house and cheap carnival games. The type of shit ideal for an improv first date. Jack and I just followed Ronnie's lead. Sure, maybe he wasn't happy to foot the bill for 6 Sundays at the Sugar Shack or to split the 12-pack he kept in the Woody, but he had his sights set on Jessica, and we couldn't blame him. The weather was nice. The chemistry between the girls and us warmer than Tybie's simmering heat. On the main strip, we congregated by Ronnie's Woody and Jessica's red Chrysler, our gazes admiring both the passing hot and each other. 1963 never felt more fun. There was energy. The Beach Boys blasted off the radio. Our long hot afternoon scored to classics like In My Room and Surfer Girl. Above all, we felt invincible. Not us against the world. We weren't rebels without a cause. We owned the moment. Friends freed from the stress and poverty. Tybee was all ours. Ronnie, Jack, and I all got lucky. With kisses and first base at least. Then Ronnie reminded us why the hell we were out here in the first place. And when the girls saw his longboard. Well, you get the idea. Jessica followed us over to Ronnie's favorite spot, a secluded area along the shore. One complete with a view of Tybee's lighthouse. The lighthouse, the type of towering antique every island claims is haunted. Only on Tybee, that baby was a tourist trap without a fan base. Regardless, seeing the black and white abyss spiral into the sky always made for pretty background. We set anchor about 20 feet away from the roaring Atlantic. The water was choppy, ferocious. Tybee well known for its ridiculous riptides, and today was no exception. Once Ronnie was done showing off his surfing skills, I dreaded the pressure Jack and I would face at following up. Neither of us knew a damn thing about using that green longboard. Hopefully by then, we'd all be too buzzed to care if Molly and Susie laughed at our amateur act. Like a picnic, we had our station out on those soft blankets. Just us, the girls, the transistor radio, and a big cooler full of more booze. Life's essentials. On the radio, Jack and I went back and forth between the Red Sox game for us and hit radio for the chicks. Around 4, we settled in on the tunes. Bobby Vinton's Blue Velvet enhanced both our shared beer buzz and sudden romances. At ease, I scanned the scene. The white sand, the scattered seaweed, stray seagulls. Not to mention the empty beer bottles and crushed cigarettes all over the place. We were alone in our bathing suits. The boys in our long dark trunks, the girls in their one-pieces, except for Molly. Luckily for me, she wore that purple two-piece and wore it well on that long, lean body. There was silence save for our chatter and laughter, and the steady, violent waves. Together, we formed our own beach movie. Okay, so maybe Jack and I were the skinny sidekicks to Ronnie's chiseled hunk, but we had the babes and the good music. Far away from Mom and Dad's complaining. In a wild flourish, Jack rummaged through the cooler. He tossed out a baseball and a few comic books before revealing a few more six-packs. Molly and I's eyes gravitated toward the horror comics. There was Tales from the Crypt, the Vault of Horror. The comics full of simultaneous sleaze and scares. Their grisly covers leaving nothing to the imagination, especially one depicting rotten bodies pulling themselves out of the grave. Disgusted, Molly picked up one of the Crypt comics. "How can y'all read this shit?" she asked in her southern accent. I cracked a smile as Jack handed me another beer. "Why wouldn't we?" I quipped. In a drunken stumble, Jack fell back on his ass, right beside a giggling Susie. "Yeah, it's good stuff, man." Still holding the comic, Molly flashed me a bemused look. I clanged my beer into hers. "You got zombies, vampires," Jack went on. Playful, he pretended to tear into Susie's neck. "Werewolves. Stop it," Susie shouted through the laughter. Shaking her head, Molly threw the Crypt Keeper down. She stole a glance out toward the ocean. Toward my surfing brother. "Hey, I heard they got those zombies out here on Tybee." Jack further teased Susie. They come out at night. Susie gave him a light shove. You're so full of shit. Molly grabbed a hold of my hand. The sun showcased her bright eyes. Her smile met mine. Your brother's pretty fine. Yeah, I replied in my southern drawl. Together, we looked off toward the Atlantic. Toward Ronnie's toned body conquering the latest rogue wave. There was Jessica on the shoreline, watching him with entranced eyes. Good-looking B***starred, ain't he? I said. Molly chuckled, just as the crystals Dardu Ron Ron started on Jack's radio, and just as my summer day got even brighter, hotter. Leaning back, my other hand drifted away from the blanket. Rather than soothing sand, I felt soft silk. Nothing sunk through my grip. Confused, I looked toward the ground, toward the cluster of white feathers sitting at my side. They formed a small village, but there was no other sign of life near them. No footprints, no blood. The feathers much too small and frail to be from some of the fat seagulls strutting the beach. Over the radio, I could hear Molly's terrible singing. Her shrill cover of Dadu Ron Ron sure to scare away any tourists or teens. But in that moment, my focus stayed on the feathers. Their scattered arrangement. Like a Tybee Island air raid, a burst of soggy sand blasted me in the shoulder. The explosion startled Molly and I. Screaming, she jumped back. Jack's cackling erupted over Phil Spector's wall of sound. I didn't mean to interrupt, he joked. Standing right by us, Jack's wicked smile faced Susie's. You a shoal? Molly hurled back at him. Flashing a grin, I grabbed a chunk of sand. Is your name Jack or Mac? I shouted. Jack smirked. What? I saw confused Susie grab his arm. I thought it was Jack. With a battle cry, I lunged up and flung the sand at them. The fight was on. Amidst the laughter and doo-wop, the four of us engaged in wild beach combat. The beer made our throws sloppy, and our joy only greater. Running in from the water, Ronnie threw his hands up in dismay. Hey, what the hell are y'all doing? His deep voice shouted. Jessica threw her arms around him, her eager hands moving all along his body, her laughter echoing down the desolate shore. Molly staggered into me, knocking the two of us onto a blanket. Our smiles omnipresent. Our next kiss the most potent yet. Hey, it's your turn, Donnie. I heard Jack yell. Shattered from the daytime sparks, I faced him. Off shit. Chickling, Molly ran her hand down my bony chest. Come on, you should do it. She leaned in closer. The seduction obvious. I'll watch you. Yeah, man, Jack said. Ronnie jammed the long board at my feet. The green anchor sunk straight into the sand. Ronnie's hand gripped the top of the board. Jessica clinging to his side. Ronnie's smile grabbing my attention like always. Your turn, man, he said. Now I felt real pressure, especially once Molly squeezed my shoulder, her other hand drifting down toward my ass. Ooh, I wanna see, she cooed. I had no choice, even if I hated surfing. Even if I didn't know what the hell I was doing other than embracing the culture and girls. This 1963 rite of passage still had to be done. Dragging the long board, I made my way down toward the ocean. A half-empty long neck in my hand, literally following my brother's footprints. The roaring waves offering a brief escape from the summer heat. Behind me, I heard my friends' cheers, and Jack's cheers. Not to mention Molly walking closer toward me. I stopped and turned to see her slender frame standing a few feet away. Her eyes and smile latched onto me. You got this one, Donnie. Ronnie gave me a smug nod. He and the others all held fresh beer. But behind Ronnie's grin was an encouraging expression. He always had my back. Surfin' USA was the soundtrack to the scene. To the sea. Jack's radio somehow louder than the action in the North Atlantic. Bracing myself, I downed that hot beer in one cool swig. A beaming smile conquered my face. Like a cheerleader at a drag race, Molly clapped in excitement. All for me. I tossed the empty bottle at her feet, gave Molly a wink. Then I confronted the blue mass waiting on me. Battling the adrenaline, I charged toward the Atlantic. My footsteps heavy in the soft sand, but as I got closer to the water, slight sparkling caught my eye. There, submerged in the ocean's shallowest depths, were old chunks of metal. Too heavy to be handcuffs, too painful to be modern. Not even a century of currents could tarnish those chains and shackles. I wanted to come to a scared stop. After all, The sight sent chills down my spine, as did Savannah's nasty history. Thoughts of slavery and torture temporarily subdued my buzz. "Get in, you chicken," Jack hollered in his nasally tone. "You got this, Donnie." Ronnie joined in. Their voices, the girls' excitement, and the Beach Boys themselves compelled me. There was no going back now. Finally, I hopped onto the longboard, on my stomach, and kicking like a desperate dog determined not to drown. Rather than relief, I felt the lingering dread. The cold sea further chilled me to the bone. Forming waves stared me down, and the deeper I descended, the less I heard my friends, my brother. The music now faded off into the distance, yet the water got warmer. A sudden heat, unnatural in those pre-global warming days. Nervous, I looked down. The sea was clear, just far from blue or green. A red tapestry swirled all around me. Warm, vivid blood. Shasterisk tea, I cried. Panicking, I staggered up onto the board. Not ready to hang 10, but to get the hell off this red island. My legs growing wobbly, I stood there awkward. A simultaneous scared and Shasterisk TTY surfer. Screams beckoned me from the shore, but I couldn't hear them. Nor did I notice the towering wave. Until it was too late. That monster smashed right into me. A heavy dose of salty seawater doused me, but the ocean's mean right hook couldn't take me down. Instead, I staggered forward, somehow keeping my balance on the longboard. With miraculous agility, I rode the wave straight into shore. A smooth landing after a rough battle. On the radio, the Surfari's Wipeout was now my victory song. Only Molly wasn't there to cheer me on. I stumbled into the shallow water. Stole a glance over at those lodged chains as I snagged the board. Loud shouting echoed toward me. Yelling I could hear even over Wipeout. I heard an audio of adult anger and teenage tantrums. Not to mention Ronnie's cool, calm voice. Turning, I looked toward the drama unfolding. Right at our spot, a square mom and dad were yanking Jessica away. Both of them in ugly shorts and t-shirts. Judging by the tan skin and dark hair, I could tell they were her folks. Their shared glares ruining whatever beauty they had left in them, much less whatever heart they had. Alarmed, I ran up shore, dragging the surfboard with me. The mom shuttled an angry Molly and Susie ahead of her, corralling the girls like cattle. They were being led away from Wipeout and the booze. Away from summer and back toward their suburban cells. Respectful, Ronnie approached the parents, his tone nowhere near hysterical, his body language avoiding all histrionics. "Unlike the adults harassing us, just listen," I heard him say. Jack stood by the cooler, his grin long gone, replaced instead by a grave worry we never showed during those long hot months, especially when we were far away from school, far away from authority. Jessica's dad gave Ronnie a harsh shove. "Get lost, creep," he hurled at my brother. "Back off, a shoal," I shouted. Irate, I charged forward. Dropped the longboard by a stunned Jack. With a calm hand, Ronnie held me back. "Hey, don't worry about it." Everyone watched me. The girls intrigued. The mom worried. But I still stood by Ronnie. My glower still focused on Jessica's folks. "No, I saw him push you," I said to Ronnie. Her dad pointed at us. "And you better be glad we don't have y'all arrested, boy," he yelled. "Look, sir, we're sorry," Ronnie said. He stole a glance at Jessica, his confidence coming back once he saw her sly smile. "We didn't mean to get them in trouble," Ronnie told the parents. Behind steady green eyes, he looked back and forth between the mom and dad, his sincerity in the spotlight. "It's my fault, honestly. I'll take responsibility." He waved toward the girls. "Just don't blame them, please." Even the mom was impressed. For a moment, the crowd was riveted. No one said a word. Scoffing, the dad waved his wife off toward the parking lot. Take them back, Barbara." The girls groaned in unison. Jessica's father faced Ronnie. "Guess I can't blame you for not knowing they were out sneaking around." The mom led the three girls away, but not before the young women waved back. Their hungry eyes stayed fixated on us all the way. "Bye, Donnie," I heard Molly say in her sultry southern tone. "I'll leave you boys be," Jessica's dad continued. "But I suggest you get home. It gets crazy out here at night." "Yes, sir," Ronnie replied. In a grumbling exit, the dad turned and followed after his wife, his steps dutiful, his mood forever grumpy. We watched our temporary loves walk away, even when we knew we'd be back in their arms soon enough. Jessica even managed to blow a kiss to Ronnie before disappearing up those wooden steps. Molly's final wave etched itself in my young mind, a memory I'd always cherish. The coda to an amazing first date. The sun now began to set. The summer's simmering glow grew dimmer. The three of us now stood on a melancholy stage, all alone, colder in the isolation as a breeze ripped through. Ronnie smirked at Jack and I. "Well, that was fun." I gave Jack a playful shove. "Yeah, thanks for helping us back there, tough guy." Laughing, Jack retrieved a few more beers. "Hey, Ronnie could handle it on his own." He tossed Ronnie a bottle. "Like always, right, Ronnie?" Ronnie grinned. "Hey, someone's gotta watch out for y'all clowns." He took a quick sip, ready to get the party back on track. Jack turned up the radio. Dion's Donna the Prima Donna instantly warmed us from Tybie's notorious wind chill. Jack sang along with glee. Our summer joy resurrected, regardless of the invading darkness. 30 minutes later, the three of us polished off that last six-pack, Ronnie's flashlight our only light. Lounging on the blankets, we didn't need parties or girls. We just had each other. The chiffons "He's so fine" further fueled our buzz. "Wait, you said you saw blood," Jack said. I smirked. "I mean it was in the water, man." Ronnie gave me a light shove. "No way. I swear," I replied. Taking another sip, my dazed eyes drifted off toward the lighthouse. The skinny, tall building like a skeletal tombstone on the shore. Its stoplight nothing more than a weak orb. "Maybe it was a shark or something," Jack said. "I know those assholes get pretty close." Chickling, Ronnie took another swig. "Well, I'm proud of you, Donnie." He patted me on the back. "Always an honor. You handled that wave like a champ." "You think so?" I asked. "Yeah, I taught you well." A slight chuckle escaped Ronnie's lips. Nighttime was upon us, but I wasn't afraid. I could see the stray street lights near the wooden steps, hear the constant waves, still feel the mesmerizing marks Molly and the girls left upon us. "Hey, you didn't teach me," Jack joked to Ronnie. Ronnie waved him off. You're helpless, man." He took another sip. Getting drunker by the second, Jack turned down the transistor. The chiffon's no match against his rowdy voice. "For real, did you get that girl's number? 'Cause I was telling Susie we can take the Woody to the drive-in tomorrow." Ronnie flashed that smile. "Of course I did, my man," Jack howled. Laughing, I let Jack give me a high five. "We'll do it again," Jack shouted. Ronnie leaned back. "I'll think about it." "You can't even drive." Together, we shared a chuckle. Then Jack went silent. Panic crossed his face. "What's up?" Ronnie asked him. Shushing us, Jack leaned in closer. "Listen." He turned the radio down a little more. A chant crawled toward us. A soft singing ringing in from the sea. Multiple voices, multiple tones, all of them coming together to form a creepy chorus. The three of us looked further down shore, where the noises were coming from. Beyond the sand, the singing marched on through the darkness, getting closer and closer toward us. Ronnie grabbed the flashlight. "They'll wait here." Nervous, I grabbed his arm. "No, what are you doing?" I said. In a tight grip, Ronnie snatched my wrist. For once, his face showed worry, concern. "Just stay here, Donnie." "All right, I'm gonna check it out." I let him go. I trusted Ronnie. "Always." "You sure?" Jack asked him. But Ronnie didn't respond as he tracked the noise. Down the shore, the eerie hymn only got louder, heightened by more and more voices. Like a beach concert we couldn't see, and one I wasn't sure we wanted to. Left on the blankets, Jack and I watched my brother rush toward the chant, his flashlight in hand, his steps cautious and quick. A sudden burst of water distracted us. Not a crashing wave, not even a splash, just a slow rise. We looked toward the ocean, toward the dark depths lying before us. Under the faint lighthouse's beam, Jack and I saw where faint ripples remained. "What the hell's that?" I said. We exchanged nervous looks. "Maybe it's nothing," Jack stammered. But I knew better. Holding my final beer, I got up and staggered toward the sea. Jack right behind me. "Donnie, wait!" I heard him cry. In the dark, I didn't have footprints to rely on, just my own disturbed intuition. combined with a continual chanting, I felt compelled to the spot. To the ripples the lighthouse illuminated. Far away from where Ronnie and I had surfed earlier. "Donnie, come on," Jack yelled. A few feet away from the water, I somehow splashed into something. And so did Jack. Together, we stopped, paralyzed in fear. The putrid smell hit us first. Then we looked down into a red stream, one dominated by white feather islands. Out of nowhere, Jan and Dean's Surf City erupted off the radio. A sudden surge and surf rock to go along with our sudden scare. "What the hell's that?" Jack screamed. We saw beheaded chickens littering the soggy sand. Rows and rows of headless corpses. An entire decapitated co-op. The collective blood kept building up beneath our feet. The lighthouse basking those countless chickens in an eerie light. The waves unable to sweep their bodies away. Unable to collect anything except flowing crimson. And the missing heads. I reached toward Jack. "Come on, let's get the hell out of here. Go," a deep voice yelled. Jack and I turned to see Ronnie running toward us. His flashlight a glowing red flag, much like the sheer fright in his eyes. "Let's go," Ronnie yelled. I grabbed my brother's arm. "What's going on?" I waved toward the chicken cemetery. "What is this shit?" Shivering, Ronnie's calmness had now collapsed into a frantic fear. One beyond his control. "They're right behind me," he cried. With that, Ronnie shined the light behind us. The spotlight to the scare. There they were. Over 20 people chanting in unison. All of them black, all of them wearing ripped, colorful robes. Beads, headbands, necklaces. They were a chorus of the dead. Their dark eyes didn't so much look at us as stare blankly into our souls. All as their mumbled prayers grew louder. And as their army marched closer. The lighthour's beam reflected off so much sharp silver. Off the group's arsenal of machetes and long knives. Much of the blades coated in bloodied feathers. Some held bright torches. Their small bongos reached a rapturous rhythm. A tribal beat only matched by their chaotic voices. "We gotta get out of here, man," Ronnie shouted, unusual terror in his voice. "Come on." Before we could react, the cold night tide gave us yet another scare. A ferocious wave slammed into our ankles. And into the dead chickens lying beside us. "Shit," Jack cried. The waves then roared to life. An explosion erupted. The sea parted ways. The powerful bursts echoed through the night. Many figures emerged from the swirling dark blue water. From a hypnotic whirlpool. Nervous, I looked on at the Atlantic. Too scared to look away. Tall black specters stood in the ocean. Both men and women. Their empty glares watched us. Their bodies dressed in rags and torn formal clothes not of this century. The bodies still strong. Not waterlogged or decomposing. Still strong and fighting for life well over a century later. Straight chains stayed attached to their wrists. Their gaunt ties withdrawn like empty clouds. No sign of life displayed anywhere except in the group's slow, methodical walk. Through the cold water they waited. Straight for us. Their arms extended out for fresh flesh. The deceased slaves desperate to escape death. Their shackles were no different than the ones I saw earlier. And the waves did nothing to slow them down. The zombies moved steady and quick. Driven faster toward land by the cryptic chant swirling around us. The smell lingered. The dead chickens. The gore. The nauseating stench of recent slaughter. I cringed, but the dread built up inside me. Never leaving as long as I stayed on Tybee Island. From the sea, a dark-skinned woman in a head wrap reached toward me. Her limbs long and lanky. Salt water dripping off skinny fingers clamoring for my neck. Panicking, Ronnie grabbed my arm and pulled me back. "Run!" he cried. Now I saw how far ahead Jack was. His instincts instantly sent him running. As did his immense terror. "Go to the woody!" Ronnie cried. The crowd's creepy chorus hit a crescendo. Their collective voodoo chant, accelerated by that bongo beat. Turning, I looked down shore. Now a few blacks were running toward us, raising their torches and machetes like weapons for a forthcoming battle. I just didn't know if it was to attack us, or to greet the undead they'd resurrected. And I sure as hell didn't want to find out, especially once I heard a vicious charge come splashing through the ocean. I looked over to see those zombies gunning for us. every single one of them. Their eyes still in a horrific haze, their mouths agape to match the chorus of that constant chant, not in a pretty voice, but in a tormented cry through the night. Ronnie yanked me further toward our blankets. Our station. Run, Donnie. Amidst the adrenaline, I saw Ronnie's flashlight guide us. Saw the lighthouse spotlight Jack's scared silhouette up ahead. Jack now hauling ass up those creaking stairs. But the singing got closer, as did the ferocious footsteps, faster than those hungry waves. Surf City drew me back to our station. The radio kept playing. Even this low, Jan and Dean's harmonies still lured me in. The green longboard compelled me, an item of worship surrounded by so many beer bottles. I stopped and reached for it, eager to save my brother's cherished memento. Then I felt Ronnie yank me closer toward him, like a policeman's pull, but only stronger. More motivated by love than duty. "Let's go," he yelled. Using all my strength, I stopped him. "Regardless of the horror descending upon us, I gotta get your board," I said. In a determined yank, Ronnie dragged me away. "Fuck the longboard," he shouted. I stole one look back toward the blacks all congregating on Tybie's desolate shore. There was singing, cries both happy and painful, reunions going on by the sea and in the cold water, all of it amidst the glowing torchlight. On the way out, Ronnie and I's frightened feet kicked up clusters of sand. Surf City slowly left our lives, as did the surfing phase. We never went back for Ronnie's longboard, and we never would.